Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how I like to fuse up my 30-shot fan firework mortar racks. There's a specific way I like to fuse these to try and get a nice effect during a fireworks show. And today I'm going to show you what I do to achieve that. So let's go ahead and get started. So here we are in front of the fan firework mortar rack. As you can tell looking down the side, you can see that obviously they're angled. So you got to imagine what this would look like in the air. So you're going to have a burst here, and then a burst a little bit higher in the center. So in my mind, instead of using it more of like a straight shot rack and having one go bang, 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 and you're leaving the rest of the sky empty, you kind of want to have boom, boom all at the same time. So you want all three going off at the same time. So in order to achieve that, there's a specific way I like to fuse them. So what I would actually do is I run on either side, depending on where you're at on your actual setup. You run your speed fuse down the side, and then across I run the really, really quick fuse, the stuff that's like half a second per foot, and I hit that across. So I'll show how I fuse that up. But before I do that, I want to kind of show a little bit about how I set this up. So we're going to come in for a little bit of a tighter shot to show that. Now that we're in front of the mortar rack, I want to show what I do to kind of help choreograph these racks to make them look a little bit nicer, a little bit more exciting for the show. So on the two angled shots, typically, if I pull these shells out, you'll see that each of these shells is actually a phantom firework, and this is a dual layer canister shell. Hoping that's not too overexposed and the camera can actually focus in on that. Now if you actually look at the effect on this shell, right here, the effect on this shell is purple and green peony with green strobe mine. Now this shell is the same exact thing. So these are the same exact shells. So my intent is to have these two bursts, when it goes off, be the same type of bursts and colors. Then the middle one's going to be a unique one, and I think that'll leave a really nice choreographed look for when you're actually doing these shots. So for this particular one, I actually have a 3-shot ball shell coming out, and I use converted X-Cal tubes because I tend to find Excalibur tubes are a little bit more narrow, so that the shell kind of has a tighter fit versus the standard DR11s. They're a little bit looser in. So that's basically the way I set up a lot of my fan mortar racks. All of these are going to have the same thing. These are two ghost shells. So these are like really big comets that go off. There's no report, they don't explode in the air, but they're just ginormous comets that come out of the tubes. And it just kind of goes like that all the way down. And as always, before you fuse anything up, just go ahead and look down your tubes. Make sure you can see top on all of them if they're marked so. If they're not marked, just make sure you can see the loop so you know you loaded it in right. These phantom firework ones, they have an arrow on the side that just kind of points up, telling you that's the direction that's going to come out of the tube. So as always, safety should be number one. Make sure they're loaded right. You don't want to have any issues or problems later on. Okay, so we're ready to start our fusing. So one of the first things I always like to do is I kind of like to give myself a sense of direction for which way the ignition source or the flame is going to be coming from the previous fuse. So the other rack's going to be right here for this one, and it's going to come off and turn, and I want it to now go down this way to start lighting off all of my tubes going across. So I just like to have the tape on there just as a sanity check to make sure I know I'm fusing everything up the correct way. So for me, I'm going to be running perfect fuse at this point in the show because I want this to go a little bit faster. Now perfect fuse is actually going to go a little bit faster because I'm going to be using the really fast fuse going across, and usually when I use the really fast fuse I like to have a good 1.5 to 2 inches of surface contact between the fast fuse and your speed timing fuse. So it's actually going to go a little bit faster because this speed fuse is probably going to make this burn really fast and jump ahead quite a bit. So this will actually be a little bit faster than a normal perfect fuse rate would be. So let's go ahead and get this installed. The other thing you want to keep in mind about your your speed fuses, always leave yourself a good little tail on the end so that when you line your boards up or your racks up next to each other, you've got some fuse to work with and you don't have to go and grab another piece of fuse and cut it and put it in. It's just quicker just to be able to connect two that have little like pigtails coming off of them. So I just cut a piece of fuse that should be the right length for me, and that should be good enough. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. Now I'm going to go ahead and start doing my cross fusing. And again, I'm going to be using this really fast fuse for my cross fusing. This fuse comes in at 0.1 to 0.4 seconds per foot, so it is very fast. I'll be using my Scotts rough surface tape. This is rough surface masking tape. This stuff works excellent. And then I also have my cutters here. Just used as a razor blade and kind of like a polymer or a plastic pad, so when it comes down, you don't run the risk of creating sparks like you would with scissors. It just really reduces friction. So this is a very good tool that you should have if you're going to be doing fusing like this. And especially if you're going to be using fusing that's as volatile as this stuff that burns in 0.1 seconds per foot. This is really volatile stuff. You want to make sure you're being really safe with this stuff. So what I like to do to kind of make this go faster is I just peel off several pieces of tape and line them up on the rack, and that makes it go a little bit faster instead of having to constantly pick up and put down your roll of tape. So I'm making my fuse connection here, and whenever I make my fuse connection with this really fast, I always like to have a good 1.5 inches of overlap. I stick both sides down. Now the actual ignition source is going to be coming from this direction, so I want the shell to be coming from this direction so it's pointing towards it. And make sure you have both of them pressed down on the tape, and then push the tape together firmly as you actually peel it over. Now you have all that surface contact with the fast fuse touching the mortar shell fuse. So this should be a really nice fuse, and the likelihood that this will not go off is now going to be extremely low. I've always preferred tape just because if you look at the amount of surface area contact here, there's a lot more of it than if you were using the little zip ties. Zip ties are probably a little bit faster, but in my mind, I would rather have the extra security of having that surface area when I do my fusing, especially when you're running fusing that's as fast as this stuff. So I like to pull my fuse really tight on this fuse that's going to be furthest away from my speed fuse. And the reason why I do that is because I'm trying to reduce as much length of this really fast fuse as possible. I'm just trying to save a little bit of money by keeping the amount of really fast fuse as short as possible. So I always pull this one really tight. This one just kind of goes in the middle. This one I kind of pull back and out of the shell, push it more back this way, like so. And then I make my connection end where my speed fuse is going to be going down the whole length of the rack on this side. So now we have all of our fuses connected. We want to go ahead and protect the fuse. So this year I'm just going to be running masking tape. I just don't have the time to be able to sit here and do it with aluminum foil this year. So basically it's just 2 pieces of masking tape per row of tubes. I cover them going lengthwise. But the first thing I do actually though is I'm going to go ahead and actually cover up all the fuses down the side here. And then I'll go ahead and then cover the tubes. So to do it really fast, all you have to really do is just take your masking tape and then just put the pink fuse or whatever your timing fuse color is in the middle. And then you just pinch it over. And this should be good enough to help protect that fuse from any sort of embers or any other sort of fallout that might make this fuse go faster than what you were expecting and having fuses jumping tubes and things like that. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and cover up the tubes. Since I have two irregular tubes in this rack, I'm going to go ahead and just do these individually. Because these tubes are actually taller than the rest of them. And the very last step is just to cover up the remaining exposed fuses. And there it is, one fanned 30-shot firework mortar rack fused and choreographed. I hope you enjoyed the video and you were able to learn something. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Have a good one.